Welcome to I Heart Geek. And welcome to another episode of I Heart Geek. Hey, Merry Christmas, all!
Merry Christmas!
I am so happy about this episode for a couple of reasons. First one, I miss doing the shows. I really do. And I miss this company that I got with me. We got Tommy, we got Skeeter, we got Griffin. How's everybody doing?
Awesome!
Doing great.
So, we're doing a second Christmas episode. Now, I was very, very hesitant on this movie that we're doing. And I mean, you already clicked on it, you know what we're talking about. We're talking about A Christmas Story Christmas. And I have to say this, before anybody ever makes a sequel of any movie ever again, they need to watch this because this is a masterclass on perfection, in my opinion. We haven't talked about the movie. I don't know what everybody thought, but I'm saying it straight off. This was literally a perfect sequel, in my opinion. Everybody's heard me talk. If you've been listening to the show for a while, you know I love Christmas Story. It's not my favorite Christmas movie. It's one of my favorite movies, period. It's amazing. This Christmas Story Christmas, after a lot of failed attempts at sequels, this has been great. So Tommy, what's your first thoughts on Christmas Story Christmas?
I would have to agree with you in a lot of ways. I thought it was a really incredible sequel that actually honored the original sequel, unlike Hocus Pocus 2, which I thought was an absolute travesty.
Garbage.
I was very disappointed in that as a massive fan of the original one. But I know we're going to get into the nitty gritty, but yes, I thought they did an excellent job of telling a new story while still honoring the spirit of the original.
Skeeter, me and you grew up with A Christmas Story. I think we watched it for the first time together when we were like 12 or something. What's your thoughts on this take?
Absolutely. You said masterclass. Couldn't have been better said. They absolutely took into consideration fans, history, the original, everything that they needed to make this phenomenal. I mean, it was, I couldn't find a flaw. I went back and rewatched, but like you said, Dub, since we were about 12, you know, and it always does like that opening sequence soundtrack that even when, you know, the 24 hours of Christmas Story, you know, is on during Christmas, every time I hear it, I go back to us in the lower living room.
Yep.
You know, in front of the TV for hours, watching the same thing. So it was phenomenal. You know, those guys did a great job.
Griffin, what's your thoughts? I don't know what your history is with this, but
yeah. So my history with Christmas Story is watching it every year on TBS, 24 hours of Christmas Story. I've been raised with it ever since I could remember. So just in my whole life, that's the tradition. And so when this movie came out, I remember sending my dad and my mom the trailer and being like, wow, they're actually doing this. And so watching it, it's frightening, it's like that. The Christmas Story is my favorite Christmas movie of all time. It is. It's my favorite. When I think of Christmas movies, it is. That's the movie I think of. But when I watched this, I was tears. I smile, like the biggest smile on my face in moments, and it made me feel all the things that the first one felt in its own unique way, but not taking away from the first one. And I have to agree with you. This is a perfect sequel.
Yeah, and we'll hit into all the nitty gritty on it. But I have to say this. This is what people don't realize. There's been 2 failed sequel attempts at Christmas Story that aired, and they were terrible.
Do tell.
They one of them was supposed to be like 10 years later. It didn't have any of the same actors. They had the house. It was terrible. And then there was another one that was supposed to be more based on the books, and it was about Ralphie getting a car. And it just didn't. They never stood up. And then 2 years ago, there was the musical version that came out with Matthew Broderick as the dad, and that was bad. That was they're trying to hit on your heartstrings the whole time, and the kid is just too cute for words, and it's like there's no heart in this though. This got it right because it got the heart right. I mean, even the part that a lot of people would have a problem with today, and they were able to put it in with the Red Rider, and I don't know what I can say on YouTube, but the Red Rider thing, which was such an important part of that movie, but they were able to put it in. They were able to give it homage without making it a big deal. They did the bypass the same way they did the bypass of the leg. That was, again, just such a wonderful way to get that the feel of that first movie without, and it's not going to piss off everybody,
Well,
because if it wouldn't have been there, people would have been mad.
Yeah, both of these films are about nostalgia.
Yeah,
let's face it. And the thing about nostalgia is it's very easy to get way too heavy-handed with it. And we were just talking about how like they touch on all of these elements of the first film, aside from, of course, the actual cuts that harken straight back to the first film, but like the lamp and the Red Rider. All you need to get that moment of nostalgia, it's so built into so many people that all you need is that glimpse and you get that feeling. Now, I have to say that I actually didn't come to the first film until I was an adult. I didn't get it when I was a kid. It would come on and I'd be like, I mean, I was too young to have that.
It's a slow
nostalgia
mover
for that time. Yes, exactly. Well, not anymore. I flip and love it now. And it I just kept kind of being like, it's that 24 hours of Christmas Story again. Bleh. And so finally one year I was like, I'm going to sit my adult butt down and just watch this. And like give it the focus. And it, even as a film that was done in what, the 70s or the 80s? I can't remember what year. 83. Yeah, 83. About a bygone era. It doesn't matter what era you're living in. It captures what, even with all of its failings, what we all of life's failings, what we hope Christmas would feel like. That family and the enthusiasm and touching on what we all know, which is everybody's got somebody in their life who is like the dad. If it's not your dad, it's that person that's gonna change that fuse and get that tree. And everybody wants to have somebody like the mom, and everybody wants to remembers those daydreams of when we were kids. So both films really in different time periods, and I'm going on and on, so I'm going to stop.
It's okay. I'm loving this.
But they just encapsulate nostalgia with a very delicate hand. And because of that, you can just allow yourself to get lost in it because it never rings false.
Yeah. It doesn't feel manufactured at all. No. Nothing about it does. And there's a part that,
even though it clearly is.
Clearly is. But there's a part that I wanted so bad and they didn't give it to me. And I'm so glad they didn't, because then it would have felt like, oh, they're just going shot for shot. Because they almost, when he throws the snowball at the daughter and she falls off the stump, and it's adorable.
Yes.
How much did you want to, just for a second, see Ralphie go, oh, fudge? I wanted to see it, but then I was so glad that I didn't, because it made it so it wasn't just a carbon copy, I think.
But how was that buildup though? When he pulled off the road and they
that's what we're all expecting it. Yeah.
Like, I'm all, his kid's gonna get out, he's gonna do it, and then that Satomi, I agree. Like, I love the subtle nuances. They didn't go full blown like Black Bart and the gang. Like, that was so perfect.
Yeah. Without
Red Rider, without the whole thing. Black Bart was there. Ralphie's still daydreaming as a grown adult, which we all still do. Otherwise, we would not be here.
Yeah.
Just everything, including, and I know we'll get to it, but Flick and Schwartz and just the whole piece with, like, I think my favorite part there, I had two. One was the phone call. Don't want to go too far to there, but the other was the sled. With Schwartz actually getting
triple dog
for that one.
Triple dog dare.
I can't wait till we get there.
I don't know if you guys knew this. There's a lot of the actors that came back. That was the original Flick. It was the original Schwartz. All those guys.
Little Scotty Schwartz.
Something that's kind of interesting. Yeah, when they're in the department store and that the guy gets knocked over by Ralphie, that is the kid with the weird kid. Do you like Santa? That's him.
Oh,
it took me forever to track that down because I'm like, that's got to be him. And it was. I was like, and it just makes you feel good. I'm like, oh, that's so good.
So good.
So let's just kind of talk about this movie. Let's hit the beginning first. It just goes right for the heartstrings, and if you didn't cry within 5 minutes, you won't like this movie. When they with the old man, I'm like, oh, and it needed to happen because they did not need to replace him. No, I don't. I was not really happy they replaced the mom, but yeah, I was. But that first scene, how did they get that so right, Griffin? Let's hear from you. I haven't heard from you in a second. That first part with them, the old man's dead.
Yeah, I was waiting for it. They were talking about it in the beginning, and when they talk about, like Grandpa, he's like, Christmas is his thing. Like, he's gonna bring it, and like, you feel, even though that in real life, if you're familiar with it, that he's gone. And so, but I was so taken by the movie, by the film, that it literally, like, I was like, no, he's coming. Like, he's gonna be there. They're gonna make it happen. And then,
but they did.
When they got that call, it was like, wow, that was well done. Yeah. I was pleasantly, like, I mean, it was sad. I was tearing up, but like, bad. But I was like, what a way to start a movie.
And so, Tommy, as an actress, I want to ask you this: I don't feel like they ham-fisted that at all. It was subtle, but in your face at the same time. If that makes sense. What did they do to make that happen?
They're already counting on people watching it being familiar and in love with the first film.
Yeah.
And we're all kind of in love with the old man as a dad. So we already have this connection. So all they have to do is say that he's gone.
Yeah. And it wasn't like so over the top, and they could have done it. And that would have ruined the movie, I think.
Yeah. But if you look at the films the way that they're done, again, it's always done with a soft touch.
Yeah.
Even though the fantasies are, very over the top, it's always with a mind to nothing is. If you look at what the dramas are in these films, especially the first one, not one of them is real drama. It's kid level drama. Even dad level drama. The fuse is blown. The radiator's gone out. I can't get my Red Rider rifle I don't remember the whole title of it. It's my tongue is stuck to the pole. These are not grown-up problems.
Yeah.
So to even though we are touching on grown-up problems, we're still touching on them with the heart and the innocence of childhood.
But I think they did grow up with the audience as well, though, because like there was grown-up problems in this one, like the presents getting stolen. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
And I think actually that was and his career is up in smoke.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't get to live his dream anymore after this. So they did kind of grow up with it too.
True. But it's still with a soft touch.
Yeah, it is with a soft touch. And something you said that, which is why these movies work, is because the fantasy is so over the top, but everything else is so grounded. Mm-hmm. So I never thought about that before, but that's really why, some people say it's a slow start or a slow watch to get into Christmas Story. But it's because of the light with the over the top. It makes it, which is nice.
It's the voice. It's the narration. I mean, in the beginning of the original, you've got this older voice, this welcoming voice to telling the story, the bacchanalia of just the wording.
That's
and
a $20
the
story right there, dude.
that they're absolutely right that they're telling. And then you get we get Christmas Story Christmas, that voice is familiar.
Yeah,
it's not the original, but we know it's Ralphie as an adult, fooled. And you could be, and it just everything as the story is being told, and we have this relationship. If you grew up with it, there's that relationship that there's some part of the old man that is that is all of our dads. Some way, shape, or form, be it the turkey tasting or the handyman around the house, whatever it is. And I think they did that with such subtle compassion that it sucked. Like you couldn't stop watching it at that point.
Yeah,
if you walked away from that movie after that, I'm sorry, you're just probably not a fan. Mm-hmm. But I think with everything that they played, opening that to the when he goes to the author, or not the author, but the book editor's office, the publisher, and he opens the drawer and drops the Christmas tree in the drawer, and it's just like when he turns in his What I Want for Christmas theme for the and I'm just gonna say it, the Red Ryder 200-shot range model air rifle with a compass in the stock and the thing which tells time.
Very good on that one. Okay, so let's talk the characters for a minute. Let's talk. I think the unsung heroes of this, which was Schwartz and Flick. These guys turned out exactly how you thought they would turn out. It was kind of amazing to see that, because it's like, because Schwartz is just being a bum for the rest of his life, and the other one is the bartender. I think that was just such a, or was that the other way around?
The other way around.
The other way around. But it's like they're still taking care of each other, and they're giving each other crap, and that is, they brought that from the kids without it being overly heavy-handed, as I've said before. What did you think of these two characters, Griffin?
No, I thought that that movie handled it great. I mean, I felt like it was natural. Mm-hmm. And like you said, like it's okay. Yeah. Like it feels right. Any time they introduce these characters and you get to see them again, it's so interesting and nice. But as a viewer, and especially as a fan, you sit there and you're already in this space. Like, okay, let's see like what they're doing. And it was just nothing but, okay, they passed the test. This is great. Yeah. This is believable.
And that hair.
Yeah. And for the time, I mean, there were so many liberties that they took with this movie that they didn't need to, but it works. I mean, the time frame, the time period, they didn't focus so much on it, but I appreciated it. I was like, wow, like this is like, you know, it was set in the 70s. I was like, oh my goodness. But I wasn't thinking about that the
Yeah,
whole
you
time. It
don't think
wasn't
about it
thrown
being
in
in the
my
70s.
face. And I appreciated that so much. I was like, wow, they're really sticking to this. But yeah, I thought the characters were done so well. I mean, you could tell that they're these same characters from back in the first one, but they're adults, you know, you could tell that they've been through life.
Yeah.
Um, and I love Ralphie and the fact that he's coming back and he's always like, man, I told everybody that I wouldn't be back here until I was a success. So he's just kind of timid and afraid and doesn't really say anything. But yeah, I love the portrayals and they killed it.
I gotta tell you what, something that was amazing with Ralphie was the fact that 30 years later, he is still living off the high of what happened with him and the bully with Scott. I mean,
but people do.
Yeah, that was his one shining moment in his life. Honestly, he's got married, he had kids. Great, I beat up the bully. You know, because he told his wife about it too. I mean, I think there was something that was so real with that.
Well, you know, there's a gift that comes with being able to cast the same actors in the same roles, because A, they know these characters, and B, they've lived their lives. So they're already bringing in, as actors, they're bringing in their own life experiences.
Yeah.
And then filtering that through the lens of this character that they played already. So there's sort of an ease that comes with it, because in a way, they, you know, when you're an actor, you tap into the part of you that is that character.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they were the original ones who embodied it.
Yeah.
So here they are all these years later, and it almost creates itself, which creates a magic in watching it, because you're watching these adult actors who were also kids when this original thing happened. So, you know, it's very much they're carrying so much of themselves.
And
In it.
the kid thing, it can be hit or miss.
Yes,
and they gave us that because I don't know if it's true, but from what I understand, Randy was such a small part of that because he's a he can't act. That was the last thing he did was Christmas Story when he was 6, and he can't act.
It happens.
They were able. They didn't force that to happen. There's like small part. Okay, he's a success doing something else. We'll just leave it at that. But they still gave him his moment to shine. He didn't really have any lines except when he was on the phone. When he was at home, he was just basically leaning on his mom. And yeah, I think that was very well done. How they were able to come across shortcomings. I would hate it if they would have recast him.
Yeah.
You know, act or not. You know, that's part of the joy of it. Now let's talk about the mom. The original actress retired from acting 3 years ago, so she refused to do this, which breaks my heart.
Melinda Dillon.
I don't know that I loved her, but again, I don't know if that's just because of the nostalgia. I don't think she did a particularly bad job.
Oh, Julie Haggerty? You mean her replacement?
Yeah.
It definitely takes a second to get used to it, because
it's different.
Because you're watching it and you're like, oh, that's not Melinda Dillon. And she does have a different I thought, as far as actresses who were accessible, who are still acting at that age, because you have to keep in mind that Melinda Dillon is in her 80s. I'm not sure how old Julie Haggerty is, but she's got to be pretty close because they came up at relatively the same time. And it's a big ask. Doing a film is a lot of hard work. What I think works is they both have a softness to them. They both have a very caring nature and energy to them. It's just sort of a different flavor. They're both cereal.
Yeah.
Okay. But one is cornflakes and one is Cheerios. You know what I mean? There's a similarity, but they're just and they're both delicious, but in different ways.
Yeah.
That's my take on it.
I think that's a good take. Go ahead, Skeeter.
Julie Haggerty, right? I heard this amazing actor say once that once you start playing roles, you pretty much start filling that role standard, like a lawyer or a doctor or a airplane pilot. So just saying. But she was the mom in Just Friends, with Ryan Reynolds and I can't remember. This is
the replacement actor or the original actress?
The replacement.
She was also in. She was Barney's mother in How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah.
Yes.
She was also in Airplane in her younger days.
Oh yeah, she's done some great stuff. She's hilarious.
Amazing.
Oh my gosh, she was this. But yes, no.
Does anyone speak jive? I'm sorry, I'm
done. So she is the adamant, that's her role. She's a mom.
Yeah.
And she does such a wonderful job playing the mom role. Those were some big shoes to fill. Huge shoes to fill.
Nearly perfect.
For that movie. And she did a wonderful job playing Ralphie's mom. And because if you think back to the original, eating the soap, the caring for Ralphie after he, beat up Scott, the whole nine.
Mm-hmm.
She was there, and she did the same thing she filled that role in this one as well. She did so good, even though she was in a time that she was in pain. Mm-hmm. She had just experienced a huge loss, but her family was there. Her child was there.
Well, with you saying that makes me forgive. There's two things I didn't like with the mom character. Because, I mean, if you're not going to have the original, I don't think you should veer off at all. But there's two things that they veered off. And it was how much she was drinking. She was drunk all the time in this movie. And I never caught that in the first movie. So, I mean, I'll give it, okay, yes, the old man just died. So, but it just felt a little. And the other thing was just out of nowhere, we hate carolers. What? I don't think, to me, that's the only joke that didn't land. Because it's like
it didn't land well. I wasn't sure where that was going. I was like, wait, are these the specific religion that we like to hide from, like back in the day? But it was just.
I kind of wonder if there was like a scene that ended a cut scene. I kind of wonder because she just went through this thing.
Yeah.
It's and you definitely when you recast. You don't want her doing an impersonation.
Yeah.
No.
Because that never works.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's that's a tough one because I don't know how else they could have handled it. The carolers thing, I do think, maybe there wasn't a cut scene, but if there wasn't, there should have been.
Yeah.
That explains it. Maybe she's just lost her husband and
she needs something to be mad at.
She needs something to be mad at. Or certain things or maybe there were like 3 other caroling scenes that, maybe it was a running joke that they decided wasn't worth the extra 5 minutes of footage. There's.
Yeah.
I get it though. I get it.
Because we love these movies so much and we want to give it excuses.
Yeah.
Honestly, if I didn't love this, I wouldn't be making the excuses for it. Well, that drops a grade. No, let's see, why are they doing it? And there's something about that's kind of amazing. Now let's talk about the old man thing. This is at the end, the spoilers. Okay, if you haven't watched this, please go watch and then come listen to us. It's so much better. Anyway, so I think the greatest 2 minutes of movie scene ever recorded was the old man giving Ralphie the gun, and while he's putting the little BBs in, and that
he's doing the hand motions with
those looks to each other, it was perfection. I've never seen a scene I've liked more. I didn't like the scene as much, but my heart just kind of and I fell in love when the dad still came through, even though he'd passed, and he'd still gotten all the presents that they wanted. Convenient, yes. It needed to happen, though. I think that I put those scenes in comparison. I mean, it's never going to be as perfect as that first one, but it definitely made me feel the same way.
I almost wonder if it was the mom that
that really did
some stuff and like made it happen, just
that
to
would
kind of
make
give that
sense.
magic.
Although so much of the theme throughout the film is how much the old man loved Christmas and did Christmas better than anybody else. And he 100%, in my personal opinion, would have had his eyes on everybody's present the whole year and maybe even had gotten some and wrapped them already, to have them ready. Even though in the first one, he's a little grumpy about it. It's that whole, grumpy, but
I love this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we throw some love to the attic?
Oh, yes. Yeah. That gave us everything we needed. It gave us the lamp.
A blue ball.
A blue ball. Exactly.
It was, the bunny suit was up there. So we caught a glimpse, I was like, oh man, is it going to be an adult year with the bunny suit?
I'm so glad they didn't. Because that scene was so perfect.
Yep.
Well, because that would have made it cheap.
Exactly.
The Red Rider was there.
Exactly.
It was just like I said, the nuances that were the callbacks. And it wasn't like those other movies that we talk about on this podcast that are like full fan service.
Yeah.
This was somebody that loved this movie that loved the first one so much that they've done every everything in the world, and they got to come back to do this, and it was real. This wasn't fan service. This was every memory that they ever wanted to share put into this film, and it was beautiful.
Now, I would love to talk to the director for like 2 seconds because I want to know. He passed by all these things and they were quick, but it wasn't forced down your throat, but at the same time, it wasn't blink and you miss it. There is such a subtlety and timing that they had to get for all that. Any of that could have been. They could have went too fast and it would have been a blink and you miss it. Yes, they gave it to you, or it could have been just like, this is that. But they just really figured that out. And the hats off, because that is hard to do. I don't see many movies pull it off.
I think one of the things about that scene that was so great is a lot of the sound cues that they do with it, I think that it helps. A lot of movies now, they're kind of afraid to do things like that, take those risks. They just kind of that's why they focus in on it for so long, because they're like, well, let's see if they get it. Let's see if they know. Like the real ones know, but let's see if the general audience might understand. But we're not going to go as far as give a sound cue. We're just going to expect them to know. But this one, it was like when they went to the blue ball, you heard the old man say, it's a blue ball. And then they went to the next thing. And it was just those little things, at least for me, I appreciated so much about it, because it was just it took me back to the first one without taking it away from this one.
Exactly. And I think that's the undertone for all of this we're talking about. They gave us the first one, or they gave us this one without taking anything away from the first movie, and with letting the second movie be the second movie, and saying, we love you, first movie. There's no embarrassment about that first movie.
Yeah.
The Bumpus Hounds.
The
Santa scene, climbing those stairs. The slide.
Same Santa, by the way.
Really?
Was it really the same? It looked like him, but I was like, how is it that he looks exactly the same?
I think the one of the elves, the male elf, was the same. I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure he's the same as well.
Oh,
that's incredible.
Genius.
How sad they're doing this for 30 years.
and how awesome was it? I'm sorry, but Ralphie, anything that he's been in, you recognize him immediately. Now, wasn't he Messy Marvin early on? Didn't
know
he
what that
play that
reference is.
role?
I don't know that one.
So Messy Marvin, I think it was a cereal commercial.
No, that wasn't him.
Oh,
It's
okay.
a Mikey.
No,
You think of Mikey. Mikey will eat anything.
No, there was another one.
Okay. Well, we can look him up on
what it was,
IMDb.
but yeah, we can IMDb it. But like, you just those eyes.
Yeah,
like,
they're
you
haunting.
lived the story through his eyes. And you're just like, seriously, like anytime he was daydreaming or stepping away, you just went with it.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about it is not always a normal thing for a child actor to grow up and be a good actor, a good adult actor. That's not a given by any stretch of the imagination. And how beautifully he's transitioned, and just how beautiful his work was in this film. But much more importantly, than getting all deep about it, I would really like to talk about the sled scene because
yes, go.
I have never laughed so hard at a movie. I mean, by myself on my couch, howling as soon as all those adults started grabbing those sleds and essentially pushing the kids out of the way.
Okay, I want to hit on one thing with that I thought was very interesting. They made it so that it's still the kids' movie by this. You know, these were the kids that we loved growing up, and now they're grown up. But you know what? The adults, the enemy. It's still the kids. They're taking the stuff away from the kids, and I thought that was a nice touch. And without
seeing,
yeah.
Oh, I come at it from the other direction, which is that they're still kids inside, and it's sort of a callback to the fact that it doesn't matter how old you are, there's always a child inside of you. Not literally, please nobody pick up cannibalism because of this podcast, but
dark web. Sorry.
But just that memory of one of the reasons that adults don't act like kids and don't play. Sorry, let me put that, because I know a lot of adults that act like children. Yes, but that they don't play because they don't let themselves. Yeah. And what a joy it is to watch a bunch of adults allow themselves to play.
And you see that smile on Flick as he's going down.
Oh hell yeah!
He's scared, but he has that smile, and that again, masterclass on acting on that. Because it wasn't like in your face, but he was like, it was really a beautiful moment.
Yeah.
I love how not only the callback, but Schwartz is like, he's like, Flick is like, you've been waiting for this moment, huh? And then Schwartz is like, I've been waiting for this moment for 30 some odd years. And so it was just great. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to get your guys' take, and I'm not going to say mine until we're through. What's your take on how Scott Farkas was handled and the goon? How let me hear that. Let's start with Skeeter on that one.
So when we initially see him, we see the face, the yellow eyes. He had yellow eyes. You're like, oh man, this is going to be so bad. And like the interaction, the story, why it happened, why he was the way he was, that almost hit me as hard as the phone call and the end. Like, I just was like, oh my gosh, like, this is why this kid was this way.
Yeah.
And what he did for Ralphie, just made it brought that full circle, because like you said earlier, Ralphie's whole thing was, I beat up the bully. I stopped the bully. I'm the one, I made it stop. And then he was like, oh my gosh, now he's got power over me again. But it ended up not being power. It ended up being that moment where they could kind of like clear up the past. And I loved it. It was so good.
I got to put in this. I love that he remembered where his house was. This is your house, right? Like, wow.
Yeah.
Griffin, what's your thoughts on the the handling of the Scott Farkas and the other bully.
It was so good. It was so good. It really, I thought it was beautiful. You know, in life, you hopefully, you know, there's things that people can be petty about or hold grudges, and as you're adults, you realize the weight of life, and you realize that any of those things, you know, that's not really important at the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
and teach you something. And I felt like, wow, they really got him. You know, with him being the cop and him explaining why, like, because Rafi's like, why? And he's like, well, you kind of helped me. Like,
yeah,
I want to help people. Like, I don't want to be that guy anymore.
Even though he
And
turned
it was
into a
just
terrible parent.
right, and it was just it was awesome. I thought it was handled so beautifully and so real and so touching too.
Mm-hmm.
This movie is not a cliche or not a, and that's what makes the first one so special. Is that it's grounded. It's so real. It doesn't matter where you come from or what walks of life. You feel one thing or another.
Yeah.
In these movies, and as an adult, if you grew up as the first one with a kid, and then you watch this one as an adult, you're like, wow, it hits home differently, you know?
Yeah.
And I felt like they handled it perfectly.
So tell me.
You know, I really enjoyed kind of his full circleness. I like I think Skeet, you said you were talking about finding out about his past. And I am always for finding out why people behave the way that they do. And so having that, and then having him essentially reach out the olive branch and
Mm-hmm.
recognize his failings, I think was really important and really lovely.
Yeah. So what I want to hit on, which I think is really important, is he's being punished for being a bully because his kids are the bullies. You can see it in his eyes how embarrassed he is when he says, "Yeah, my kids, they're worse than me. They're just riding around on their snowmobile all day." And then it's like, "Oh, that's them. That is definitely his kids." But now I think that is his penance, as he
Karma.
has to deal with his
penance.
kids.
Yep.
You know, and he doesn't want his kids being that way. But
so I actually must have been a good guy when I was a kid because I got a pretty good one.
I want to talk about, because it was never hit in the first movie, but the second movie, it was a beautiful moment when his daughter, instead of just getting presents, she went through all that to get her dad a radiator. And that's what she asked Santa for, was not for something for her, for something for her dad. And I thought that was such a night, because we did not get that in the first movie at all. The parents like, whatever, you know, get a blue ball and Shinola. But I thought that, and I don't think anybody's really been hitting on that, but it is that full reciprocation of family love, you know. And I want this is I'm going to be so happy by making you this happy, and I think that's, you know,
Compassion,
yeah, it was
empathy.
beautiful.
Yeah.
It just shows amazing things. Child's love for a father's love for their children, you know, a mother's love for all of them, and how they stuck together no matter what. Like,
Yeah,
even though, you know, he was not doing what he was supposed to be doing as a writer, he just wasn't making it. I loved how it kind of comes around, and he was writing this obituary the whole time, and trying and trying and trying, and then finally he just said, "I'm going to write my memories."
yeah.
Well, you know, and
And
it's to look at him writing, you know, trying to push that book, which was manufacturing, and then
Oh, yeah.
finally being, you know, it's that whole write what you know.
You're not going to know until the next 2,000 pages.
Yeah.
yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
Stephen King, you know.
And that was just and as that developed, as it got to where it ends, that was probably the most beautiful scene in the entire movie. I mean, everything that it was, the voice, the narration immediately took me back to I'm 12 years old, sitting with my best friend in the world. No place I'd rather be anywhere than in that spot, in that moment. And now I'm sitting with my son, having that same reactive feeling to those sounds, to that voice, to all of those things. And I was just like, oh, I'm done. And that's when I lost it the worst. Like, I was not held together at all. I was just like, thank you for this. Like, this was a Christmas gift to kids of our generation across the globe.
And older.
Yeah.
So, two things we'll hit up, and then we'll start wrapping up. And I want to hit this one more thing from another thing they just did right was with the bully kids. Now, things change, yada yada. They could not have that same fight scene of a kid punching another kid in a movie that's made today. But what they did with the revenge, and they sealed their own fate with crushing their snowmobile. I thought that was very well handled. And y'all know I'm not a big fan of, well, let's change it because people won't like it as much now. But I get that change, and I thought that was a logical, great choice without it being, again, let's try to change it so for today's standards. No, honestly, this was pretty much the same standard we had when we watched Christmas Story, and I appreciated that. So I don't know if anybody else put any thought into that. That might just be me. Okay,
it was perfect.
So now let's hit this, and this is the last scene, which was, he gets picked up by the paper, and it's not until that moment you realize, oh, he's starting the beginning of the first movie right now. And when the original narration came on, it was like, and the music and everything was just felt so right. And honestly, after I watched the second movie, I put on the first movie again because it was just, it works.
Yep.
I saw it coming from a mile away.
We all saw it coming, but
but it doesn't lessen that moment of release and that moment of, oh yes, and it gets to put us in that wonderful loop of happy feelings.
Yes, it is, and that is 100% what a Christmas movie should be.
Heck yeah.
It was perfect. Okay, so let's talk grades. Let's start with Griffin. What grade do you give A Christmas Story Christmas?
I give the first one an A+. I give this one an A+.
Fair enough. Skeeter.
It's sorry, go ahead. No, I'll just say this real quick. There's very few movies that it's a perfect sequel. It's just as good as the first one. And for me, this hit, and it was scary. It's scary to go into this. It's my favorite Christmas movie.
Mm-hmm.
Please, I haven't watched any of the other ones, the bad ones. There's a reason. But this one, I could tell this is okay. Everybody's back. This is okay. Watching it made me feel the same things. It made me feel different things in a similar tone. That's why I say it wasn't the same movie, but it made me feel all the same things. And it made me feel new things differently.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was, and it didn't hit the same beats.
Yeah. It shouldn't.
And it was that's why I think that's why it gets an A+. It's a perfect sequel, in my opinion.
Very good. Skeeter.
I'm a fan. This is going to be, I don't do A+ very often, but Peter Billingsley, the rest of the cast, Scotty Schwartz, like they played this thing amazingly well. And for my heart, for my mind, it's an A+ all day.
Very good. So tell me, I've never heard 2 A+ on one show before.
Well, the first one was definitely an A+.
Mm-hmm.
This one was an A for me.
That's fair.
And it will definitely enter the canon of my yearly Christmas films.
Very good. Now, before I give you my grades, I've got to say why I'm grading it this high. So I was watching it with one of my sons, and he keeps looking at me the entire movie, especially in the beginning. He keeps looking at me. He goes, "Dad, I love this movie because except when we watch A Christmas Story, I'd never see you get that smile." And that's what I had. And I'm like, yeah. So because of that, I'm going to do something I've never done on this show. It's an A+. That's a Christmas A+. Let's be honest. If it's a regular movie, it's a B. But yeah, it was just a beautiful moment. I'm glad they made it.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's about it for now. So I'm Dub. I'm here with Satomi. We're here with Griffin. We're here with Skeeter. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, whatever you celebrate. We'll be with you all a whole lot more in the new year, and we'll see you then. Keep on geeking on, guys.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas.
You have been listening to the latest episode of the iHeart Geek Show. Make sure you visit our website at www.iheartgeekshow.com. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And if you check us out on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And keep on geeking on to all of you geek rock stars.